What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I am back with another preview for the PFL. A new season of the world's leading MMA league is getting underway this Saturday, the 1st of April. The prelims start at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN Plus. If you're here with me in Ireland, that's obviously 5 hours later at 11 p.m. And then the main card begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and ESPN Plus as well. And you could 2 a.m. Is it? That 2 a.m. Irish time here as well. And it's on the Zone, I believe. So I'm really looking forward to anyone who's listened to my previews last year of the PFL the whole way through. Knew I've really gotten into it over the last couple of years because it is just something different. You know, it is something different. And I think what the PFL have added in the last few years that makes it even better is an ever-growing, ever-improving roster. And I think for a tournament like this to work, that's what it needs. It needs an ever-growing and ever-improving roster, along with, you know, some of the good guys, say like the Chris Wades, the Bubba Jenkinses, to meet those guys, to fight those guys, to make it even better. So I'm a big fan of the PFL system. Some of the fights last year, some of the fighters they produced were absolutely fantastic. And it looks like, you know what, the lineup they have this year, it looks even better, to be honest. So I'm absolutely buzzing for the start of the PFL. The next 3 weeks in a row we get underway. And first of all, we get underway with the league this Saturday night. As I mentioned there, the times at the top. As we know, like, the PFL World Championship is going to be crowned at the end of all of this. And to get to the end, we have to get to the start, I suppose. And that's what we have here. So the first event of the year is the light heavyweights, and the featherweights are going to be taking pride of place, I suppose. We saw, I don't know if anyone tuned into my preview last week, it was about PFL Europe, and it was the light heavyweights and the women's flyweights as well. And I kind of like that, because we watch any card, we watch at the weekend. There's a fight at featherweight in the main event. There's a fight, opening up the main card at featherweight. And we're thinking, that kind of lines up. Could they fight each other? Here, it's like all of them are fighting at the same time. The person's next opponent has fought earlier on in the night, and we can do matchmaking afterwards. So that's kind of cool as well. So, yeah, I'm just, honestly, I'm a big advocate of the PFL format. I have liked it. Anyone knows who listened to me last year or the year before as well knows the exact same. And I'm glad it's getting underway again this year. First things first, what I'm going to do here is every week, if I remember, I'm going to just look through the rosters, because and even just to call them out, and then we'll get into the fights, because I think that's a very interesting too, because sometimes like all the fights coming, like who's on the roster, we look at the rosters. So the light heavyweights and the featherweights, let's look at the featherweights first. And Alejandro Flores, the first one. Brendan Loughnane, obviously last year's champion, he's coming back to regain gold. Bubba Jenkins, Chris Wade. Any PFL fan knows exactly what to expect with the two of them. Daniel Torres, Jesus Pinedo, Joe Subin, Marlon Moraes, Movlid, Khaybulaev, former champion, who's back to get it again, and my guy Ryoji Kudo. Anyone who's listened as well will know I'm a massive fan of Ryoji Kudo. I just love his style, I love the way he fights, and I'm delighted to see him back. I'm glad PFL have given him another chance. Light heavyweights then, Delan Monte, Josh Silveira, who I'm delighted is back in this season as well. He got a chance last year, but he is back. Krzysztof, Jotko, the former UFC well tenured fighter at this stage. Martin Hamlet, who's a mainstay of the PFL at this stage. Mohammad Fakhreddine, Robert Wilkinson, last year's champion. Sam Kai, who I'm a big fan of as well. He watched him in a few of his fights last year. He's only 8-6, but I think he's good enough to be in this. I like him. Thiago Santos, we all know Thiago Santos coming over from the UFC. Flores, and then Will Fleury as well, who I'm in Limerick here in Ireland. He's from Tipperary, only up the road, so we're not too far. So if there's a little bit of bias there, my apologies. Maybe there will be a little bit of it. But yeah, so those are the two lineups. And you know what? There's some fun fights there. There's some good names there. And I think a lot of fights that people will want to tune into. So let's get into it. And let's get into the card by, the fights by itself, and the first card, obviously, which goes down over in Las Vegas on April 1st. And the main event is going to be the former champion, Brendan Loughnane. Not the former champion, I suppose. He's, I wonder, is he the former champion now? Because the new season has started. I don't know. Maybe he's the reigning, defending champion, Brendan Loughnane, who takes on the UFC veteran, Marlon Moraes. The prices on that as well. I'm going to give you the prices throughout the season here as well. Loughnane a big favourite in this, and I'm going to read out the prices here when I'm recording this video. My guy John Brannigan does a brilliant job of editing. He'll have the updated prices here, so if they differ a little bit, it's because they're updated, so trust those prices. But I think the prices, that I'll give you will be quite close, and it'll give you a flavour. Minus 651 for Brendan Loughnane, plus 476 for Marlon Moraes, which is a wildly big price. Imagine that. Someone said that to you a few years ago. Like, no disrespect, to either of them here now. It's both are very, very good fighters, and if it's a fight that happened anytime, I'd be looking forward, and I really am here. But that's a wildly different price there. Brendan Loughnane is a massive, massive, massive favourite over Marlon Moraes. And okay, Marlon hasn't had a great time over the last few years, but still, he's only 34 years of age. He's coming in here again. And you can definitely understand why Brendan Loughnane would be a big enough favourite, but this big, I think it's a bit mad. Like, I always thought, and I said it coming into the last fight against Sheehan Moraes, and maybe that Sheehan Moraes fight did change it, because Sheehan's a good fighter, but he's not at the level of, say, like the Song Yadong's, Merab Djashvili, Rob Font that he had fought before that in terms of Moraes, and Cory Sandhagen as well. But I thought before that, like the Song Yadong fight, I think it was, or no, it wasn't, the Djashvili fight. It was the Djashvili fight. Moraes probably gave Djashvili more trouble than anyone's given him in a long time, and that was 2 years ago now at this stage. But the thing I thought about coming into this fight was Loughnane, he can be a bit of a slow starter at times, and if Moraes Moraes does start quickly, that he has a chance there. I saw him actually. Brendan Loughnane was on with my guys John Anik and Kenny Fleury over in their podcast, and I clicked on it, and I think the first phrase he used was "weathering the storm" or something like that, and I think that is exactly that in this fight. He needs to weather the early storm. Moraes should be coming out like Moraes, coming off of 5 losses in a row, coming into the PFL tournament here. He was in PFL last year, but he only had one fight. It wasn't the tournament format the season format that he was in. It was a bit different. He's a lot to prove here. He knows he's fighting many fights coming up here, and he has a way to kind of rejuvenate, rescue his career again. And he's not getting an easy one to start off with. But I think, like as I said, the start of this fight will be very, very interesting. Loughnane came into last year, and you could see his first fight he was injured, his second fight he was injured, and then he just started to get better and better and better. He looked, by the time the end of last year's season came, Brendan Loughnane, honestly, he looked like one of the best featherweights in the world. There's no doubt about that. People sometimes remember Loughnane because of the whole Dana White Contender Series, Monarchy and all that, but I've known Brendan for a long time, watched him fight here in Ireland against Tom Duquesnoy years ago, it's always been Brendan on the local scene, with Brendan and Paddy kind of thing, and now, both of them have obviously got to where they've gotten to, and fair play to them, they've done very, very well. But I think for a lot, it's funny because I think for everyone it was a shock how good Brendan Loughnane was. Like, you expect a fighter to be good, but I don't know, do you expect him to take that amount of a rise in level over a couple of fights the way Brendan Loughnane did? Especially when he was bringing injuries into it, especially when he's been around for a good long time. It makes you almost reevaluate how you evaluate things, because he was so good. And if he fights that way against Marlon Moraes, then that price I told you earlier on is it's probably not as wild as I made out. It probably isn't, because he is that good. Now, the fight itself and how I think the fight will go, I think, look, I've said it about 4 times now, but I think Moraes will come out hard early, and Loughnane just needs to avoid that. I think throwing in a takedown here, pushing him against the cage, staying at the end of that jab, like almost forget about the first round, just kind of play around with Moraes and then change things up in the second round, up that pace, If the takedown is there, go and get the takedown. If not, land your shots on Moraes. We know he's going to slow down. We know he's going to tire. You could test that chin on him. And I think Loughnane, what he added last year was a lot to his game, his all-round game. And when you look at a guy like that, he's like, Brendan always had probably a little bit of underrated power, I would say. If you can maybe add back in that power again, and not to say he lost that or anything, or not to say I wasn't there last year either, but if he can add that back in again against someone like Moraes and make a point of adding it in, you know, it could be a big finish here for Brendan Loughnane to start off the year. It really, really could. Now, is that my prediction? Maybe. Like, my prediction here is probably a third round Brendan Loughnane win. That's probably my prediction here. So, you know, you look up the betting odds for that, find it out. It's probably a bit of a flyer prediction because, you know, the odds straight up on this, like, I'm not taking Loughnane at that price. I don't think I'm taking Marlon Moraes at that price either because I don't think he will win. But if I had to take one of the two of them at those prices, I probably would take Moraes based on the price. But I don't think this is a toss of a coin fight. I do think Brendan Loughnane, like, I think this is probably a plus 400 type of fight for Loughnane. The fact that he is, a minus 400 type of fight for Loughnane. The fact that he is minus 651. And let me just see where those odds opened, because that could mean a lot as well in the best fighters. Oh no, hold on. So he opened at minus 450, went out to minus 700, has kind of been coming in a small bit. Yeah, so I think a lot of people took him at that minus 450 price, and that's why it's gone out there. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how that changes maybe the closer we get to fight night and what price he ends up being. But as I said, the updated prices will be on screen anyway, and you can check that out there. But my pick is Brendan Loughnane. My betting advice is probably avoid the money line prices later on in the week when the prop prices come on that. I think a late Loughnane finish, maybe the knockout, will be the way to go on that one. But this season, it's interesting because, like, I named out all the roster there, and for Loughnane, like, he's fighting Marlon Moraes, right, this season, who could land a few big shots at him early. You know, anything could happen. Anything could happen in that fight. I think he'll win, but he could lose. He could come. It'll be a hard fight to come through unscathed against Marlon Moraes. Then you're going into a fight probably like whoever else it is. Let's say it's Bubba Jenkins. Let's say it's Chris Wade. It's a different sort of test. You know, it's a wrestling test again, and you know, obviously Brendan has come through them before against Wade. Obviously last time out, but you're going in there against possibly Khaybulaev then. Another tough test. You're going in there maybe against Kudo again, who gave you fits the last time you fought. This is by no means, you know, sometimes you think champions are going to come back and they're just going to like walk it again. I know he didn't walk it last year, but you get what I mean. That's not the case here at all. I think Brendan will probably acknowledge that as well. Whoever wins this is going to have to come through a lot of tough fights here, and I'm very interested to see how that plays out on Saturday night to start off with, but throughout the season as well. Let's talk about the light heavyweight main event. So the co-main event, and it's Rob Wilkinson against Thiago Santos. You know, Rob Wilkinson, what a league season he had last year. Just unbelievable. Like, he went up so far in my estimation. But I've been watching Rob, you know, fight in PFL for the 2022 season. But before that, like in the UFC, coming out of the UFC, having a few fights outside, you know, if you look at him, he's only losses in the UFC. Bahar Dazad, okay, but Israel Adesanya, those are his only career losses. Those are his only career losses, 17-2. And since he's been in the PFL, like last year, Brucey Soto, Victor Peshta was a good fighter, Delan Monte as well, who's back in it again this year, and Omari Akhmedov in the finale. All good wins there, all finishes, and the level he has reached, I think is a level that is unsurprising to anyone who's probably watched the PFL last year and saw how clean all his work looked and how good, like, whether it's wrestling, striking and all of that, he looked very, very good. And now he's coming in here against Thiago Santos, who out of all of those names I mentioned there, maybe Adesanya aside, is probably the biggest test. But also when I say big test, I mean big in terms of size. You know, he is a big guy, a genuine light heavyweight. Obviously Rob has fought down at a middleweight before, so he's a big guy still. Like, he probably cut a lot to get down to middleweight, but fighting a light heavyweight now against a genuine light heavyweight is very interesting. Like, Thiago Santos' last fight was a relatively close fight against Jamal Hill for 4 rounds until, Jamal Hill ended up getting the finish at the end of that. He beat Johnny Walker in 2021, and Johnny, we've seen the level Johnny's getting to at the moment. And he's lost a lot of fights around that, from the John Jones fight, to the bad knee injuries, losing to Glover and Rakic and Ankalaev, but he's fighting the top tier light heavyweights in the UFC and losing to them. And, almost all of them by decision. So, or late in the fights when he does get finished. I just wonder for Thiago Santos, where is he now in his career? 39 years of age, in terms of not just, I'm sure come over to the PFL, that $1 million prize and all of that is a great elixir for him, but I think injuries, you have to say with Thiago Santos, anytime he fights, it's like Usman as well, or lots of other fighters, the injuries almost overtake everything else, because those injuries he had after the John Jones fight, he didn't look the same for a couple of fights. And I don't know if those are things you can kind of overcome at this stage of your career when you're fighting a guy as well like Rob Wilkinson, who's going to move around, who's going to make it tough, who's not going to be a static target for you just to punch in the face and knock out, basically, And I think that's very interesting. The prices on this fight as well are pretty interesting. Rob Wilkinson is a favourite at minus 185. Thiago Santos, the underdog, at plus 155. And honestly, I was very torn on who to pick in this, because I feel like my brain tells me, what are you thinking? Of course, you watched Thiago Santos for years. What are you on about? Of course, Thiago Santos is gonna win, But is he? Is he? I'm not sure, and this is the worst betting advice of all time. But is he gonna win? I think this is a toss of a coin, really, and I think it's a toss of a coin because we don't know where Santos is right now in terms of injuries, in terms of his career. Does the best Thiago Santos beat this Rob Wilkinson, who I think is in the prime of his career right now? I would probably say yes. I think he'd be able to catch him. I think the power is there. So maybe at plus 155 to take a chance and that still being there is not a bad price. It's one of those prices afterwards you're looking at and you're thinking, what am I doing? It was Thiago Santos. He's a top level fighter. How did I back against him? But right now, do you know what? If I'm giving you my pick, I'm going to pick Santos. I'm going to pick Santos at that price because I do think it is a toss of a coin fight in terms of all the things I just mentioned. So I will go for Santos in that. One fight I have to talk about is Krzysztof Jotko against Will Fleury. We'll take the biases aside here, but this price is crazy to me. Jotko minus 425, Will Fleury plus 325. And if you're backing, you have to back Will Fleury at that price. I think I'd really think you do. If it was a 50-50 one, Jotko should probably be the favorite because of his long career, the way everyone he's fought, and for Will to win this fight, it will be a proving fight. He wins this fight, it is him moving to the next step of his career in terms of the way people talk about him and think about him. Us here in Ireland, we already know how good Will Fleury is. We talk about him as being at this level. We talk about him deserving this shot in PFL. He was in Bellator before. We thought he might go to the UFC. We thought, he might be here, and here. Ended up in the PFL, in the worldwide tournament. There was talks of him being in the European tournament. I think that would have been a mistake, to be honest. I think PFL have made the right decision. He's ready for this, and you put him in there. That price is crazy. I really do think that price is crazy. Will is on a great run at the moment, and the key for me in this fight, right? You look at Krzysztof Jotko and you look at his career, and he's had a long career and a very, very good career. 17 decision wins in 24. So he's not the biggest knockout artist in the world. He's only one submission in 30 fights. He wins most of his fights by decision. He's a good all rounder. He can take you down. He can hold you down. He can push you against the cage. He can jab you. He can box you up if needs be. And I think Will Fleury is the next coming of Krzysztof Jotko in some ways. Jotko at 33 years of age now is a lot older of a 33 years of age than Will Fleury is at 34 years of age. If you want to put it that way, he's only 14 fights into his career, you know, has had the couple of fights that he lost are against very good guys. Alan Amadovsky back 6 years ago now, 5 years ago. Norbert Navinny, who's one of the best prospects in the world. Magic Rozansky, who took an injured kind of on short notice, but he's come back with 4 wins since then and 4 decision wins in a row. But look good, and all of them got 5 rounds, and one of them looked really, really good. His hands looked improved in that fight. But to me, the key here is, can Will Fleury outpower Krzysztof Jotko? And when I mean outpower, I don't mean like power shots. I mean like the more strong guy against the cage. Who's going to win if there's a battle in the middle and they're both wanting to kind of throw each other? There's like, do you know when they get pushed against the cage and there's like a kind of a trip battle? Someone puts the leg in front of the other leg, tries to trip him, and the other one's just a little bit stronger and all. Like, I feel like that's going to happen in this fight a couple of times. Who's going to win that? Like, is Will going to be able to get his 2 hands clasped behind Jotko and take him down? Is Jotko going to be able to do that to Will? Who's going to win that? But like, that to me is the key here. Now, it could turn into a 15-minute kickboxing match or anything like that, and I think Will's hands have improved an awful lot since then. I think that's probably a 50-50 as well, depending on if the boxing in the hands of Will have improved even more. I just think they look so good in that Tarek Suleiman fight that it's hard for me to pick against someone, whereas before that might have been a little bit of a weakness, or a perceived weakness, but I think that showed off how good he is there. Like, okay, I'm a bit biased. Here, but I think this is a toss of a coin fight. I think that price is absolutely crazy. I think that fight is crazy. That price is crazy. I'm definitely giving Will Fleury at that price. Probably going to be my flyer this week over on the betting show. So I love that price for Will Fleury, and I can't wait for that fight. There's the next 2 featherweight fights. Then Movlid Khaybulaev against Ryoji Kudo. Chris Wade against Bubba Jenkins. Very interesting fights. Khaybulaev, I suppose we all remember that flying knee KO of the year contender against Damon Jackson. He's kind of a wrestle first but well-rounded fighter. Moves his hands in kind of this very odd, quick fashion, but he's kind of a risk-averse fighter, and it makes for close fights sometimes. But I'll tell you who isn't a risk-averse fighter, and that's Ryoji Kudo. My guy, Ryoji Kudo. I just love his style. I love the way he fights. And, he's a counter fighter, waits for you to come in, and is rapid. We talk about fast in MMA. He's so fast. You'd think he was a 125 pounder. He's just so good. Good takedowns as well. And when I say a bit like 125 pounder, maybe size is the only thing that'll catch him out, especially against a guy like Khaybulaev, who is a big, strong wrestler, But I love I love Kudo. I love the way he fights. Do I love him in this fight? Maybe not. He is a plus 480 underdog, minus 655 for Khaybulaev. I'll say it again. I think that price is a bit wide. Honestly, maybe a little bit biased there because of how much I like Kudo. But yeah, I would probably be picking Khaybulaev there. But I think Kudo has every chance. Well, every chance of shock. Every chance of a shock. He almost shocked the world last year. He won one very, very good fight in the middle of the season. He almost beat Brendan Loughnane. It went to the judge's decision in the middle of the 3rd round, and Kudo could have taken that fight. He absolutely could have. Kudo could be the champion right now. Fell short in. It was against Bubba Jenkins, wasn't it? And Bubba's back here. He's fighting Chris Wade. He's the underdog, plus 145, minus 175 for Wade. And look, we've seen these two guys around for a long time, and they both have a point to prove here. Like, if these lads don't perform, there's a lot more people who the PFL, are probably looking at and thinking, okay, if these lads don't perform, next year there could be someone else coming in there. We have this European series, we have the Challenger series and all that. It's a big time for these lads, and I think they need to perform. Chris Wade, it's thrown a lot of kicks over the last few years. I remember watching a lot of his fights there last year. I'm thinking, you think Chris Wade is a wrestler, but he does kick a lot. But I think his kicks turn fights into wrestling matches at time. Now, will he do that against Bubba? I think he probably will, actually, thinking about it a little bit more. He's very strong. And because he's such a good wrestler, his striking, I think, has improved because he can be so open with it, and he's allowed to strike because he's so good at wrestling. Like some strikers who are not great at wrestling, they're fighting a wrestler and they're kind of hesitant about their striking. They don't want to throw their strikes. Chris Wade is the opposite. He absolutely will. Bubba Jenkins, he's a southpaw. You know, when he's wrestling at his best, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Definitely in the PFL. He out-wrestled Lance at one stage. He jumps in when he's striking. They can be effective at times. Bubba Jenkins is one of these guys as well. At his best, he's phenomenal. At his best, he's really, really good. But when he comes up a guy who's slightly better than him, that's when issues happen. And I think Chris Wade might be just that. Wade at that price, minus 175, that's probably the bet to go for there in that one. The next two light heavyweight fights in Martin Hamlet and Mohammad Fakhreddine, Joshua Silveira and Sam K. The Silveira K fight, Silveira is a massive favourite. I think rightly so. He's minus 575 plus 425 for Sam K. Hamlet is, I don't know, is it surprisingly, maybe a little bit surprisingly, he's the favourite over Fakhreddine, minus 145 plus 115. Silveira, first of all, obviously the son of Conan Silveira, impressed me last year when he came in. I think he's good wrestling, good all-round fighter. I really like him. I think maybe this year is a year early for him, but I think next year, maybe the year after, I think he is the type of guy who will end up winning a season of the PFL. And Sam K, he hits hard. He's a good all-around fighter. I think PFL probably put him in here because he's going to have some fun fights against some of these lads. Like, I could see him in there maybe against the if he loses here, maybe against the loser of the Thiago Santos fight and Rob Wilkinson. Like, let's say if that's Thiago Santos, Sam K against Thiago Santos, that's a barn burner of a fight there. That's a fun fight, but I definitely favour Silveira there at that price. The Hamlet Fakhreddine one, then, like, Hamlet, he's a very, very effective wrestler. Heavy on top, stingy with his strikes when he needs to be. When he does throw, he's hard. He needs to throw a little bit more because he maybe over wrestles a slight bit. Maybe and okay, against Fakhreddine, is that the guy to do it against, with 12 KOs and 15 wins? Maybe not. Maybe the wrestle heavyweight is to go here. But I think it's an interesting price. I would probably lean towards Fakhreddine in that. I think kicks the legs very well, has big power. I'm going to lean towards Fakhreddine at that price there in this one. Elsewhere in the card, then we have a couple of newcomers coming in. Song Bingjo against Jesus Pinedo. Daniel Torres, obviously seen around before. Alejandro Flores as well. Let me give you the prices for those. Flores is the underdog, plus 195, minus 245 for Torres. Pinedo is plus 145, minus 175 for Joe. So close fights there in those ones, and I'd be interested to see how they play. I like the thing I like as well about the PFL, when you see like the early season, you see guys like this, and maybe they're newcomers to the PFL or they've had one or two fights before. I know last year, Alejandro lost to my guy Ryoji Kudo. He's a good fighter. He's definitely a good fighter, and be interested to see, he has a few knockouts in his arsenal. He's taken on Daniel Torres, who has a few knockouts in his arsenal as well. Fighting in KSW. He beat Boris Manikovsky last time out, who was a tremendous fighter. He beats, I almost didn't put two and two together here. This is the Daniel Torres that beat Saladin Paranas. This guy is legit, and he could be a guy, he's beaten Max Koga as well. He's some very, very, very good wins here. If you don't know Daniel Torres, I don't know why I thought it was a different Daniel Torres. I was like, wait. But very, very, very good fighter. And he's a big addition to PFL, a massive addition to PFL. And I'm glad he's in this series as well. So interested to see him coming in there. And I think him at plus 245 is probably a good price here in this one as well. So Delan Monte in against Ty Flores. is another one. Obviously, Del Monte has been around here for a while at this stage. He is the favourite at minus 200 plus 161. And then Impa Kasanganay against Cory Hendricks as well. Kasanganay is the favourite minus 160. Hendricks plus 130. Kasanganay is one of those lads where if he turns up, he can be a very, very, very good fighter and very effective. When his last couple of fights in a row went out, obviously of the UFC in 2021, has gone 2-1 since with a couple of knockouts in there. Cory Hendricks 9-5 in his career now at this stage, has been around PFL for 2 or 3 years. He's beaten Martin, Hamlet, beaten Emiliano Sardi. So Hamlet beat him last time out as well. But that's a very interesting fight. Hendricks has a lot of submissions. He'll be looking to get that fight to the ground, I'd say, and try to submit Kasanganay. But if he can't, that's going to be a tough one. So that's it. That's the full card. And you know what? It's a very, very, very good card. Some interesting prices there. Some long odds. Like, here's my. If I gave you my picks shrouded, I gave you the price shrouded. Here's my one pick, right? If you were to give me, I'll give you my bet of the week. My bet of the week is one of these long price underdogs will win. One of these plus 400s, plus 485s. One of these guys is going to win. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Moraes? Is it going to be Ryoji Kudo? Is it going to be Sam K? Is it going to be? I don't know. I don't know that now. I don't know who it's going to be, but that's my prediction. Will Fleury plus 325. One of them guys is going to do it. That's my prediction for the week. And Joe, my other prediction is I think it's going to be a damn good card. It's going to be very, very good, very, very interesting. And I'm delighted to see the PFL are back for another big season. Tune in this Saturday night over on ESPN Plus, ESPN, the Zone here in Ireland. And you'll find it all over in Sherdog. You'll find it all over in PFL, where to watch, what time and all of that. But I told you that at the start as well. So that's it. I will leave it there. Thank you to everyone for listening. Let me know in the comment section below which fighter you most looking forward to. Tell me your winner. Give me your prediction of the season at featherweight. Give me a prediction of the season winner at light heavyweight. I feel a lot of people are going to go Loughnane and Santos here. That's what I think. That's what I think. A lot of people are going to go here. I am Loughnane favourite. I think Santos, I think there's a lot of good guys at that light heavyweight division. Will Fleury. There's my pick. Go on, Ireland. Will Fleury. No, I will. I'll have to take this bias down a notch here. But yeah, very, very good card, as I said, this weekend. And I hope you all tune in and enjoy it. I will leave it there. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.